The potential effects of AI are very serious, and we need to take them as such. Our guest today talks about some actionable steps you can take to restack those odds. Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Colleen, and today we have a very special guest with us as part of our AI preparedness and risk series that we are doing. His name is John Sherman. And John, welcome. Would you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and why AI is such an important thing to you and how you're going to be able to help us?
Sure, absolutely. It's my pleasure to be with you today, Kylene and Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm probably a lot like you two, not a technical person, not a computer expert, don't live in San Francisco, really have nothing to do with the AI world. But 2 years ago, I was sitting in my office here. I do video production for my business, and I was just minding my own business, reading the internet. And I came across an article in Time Magazine online that got my attention about AI risk and has kept it ever since. The article was written by a man named Eliezer Yudkowsky. And the thing about it that just was the blaring alarm horn for me was his statement that our default setting is if we build intelligence smarter than human, we will probably cause human extinction. And so I very much don't want that to happen. I have 2 kids. They're boy-girl twins. They're 20 years old, sophomores in college. And I want my children to have a future. So I've spent the last 2 years trying to ring the alarm bell and tell anyone I can about the basics of AI risk and what's involved, and let them know that you don't have to be an expert to have an opinion about this, to have a voice in this.
Thank you. And I know we were recently contracted by somebody who wanted us to do some consultation for him. And he would like to remain anonymous, but that was actually our first wake up call when we really started investigating this and thinking, oh, okay, I missed this one. I don't know how I missed this one. But today we would really like to explore with you some of what you think. Now, you've talked about 2 waves. So if you briefly want to tell us about the 2 waves, and then let's talk about the first wave and what those risks would look like. And then let's talk about what we can really do to mitigate and to prepare as much as we can so that we can safely navigate that, because we've got a lot of kids and we have twins who are 22. And so we got this, we're right there with you, and we want our kids and our grandkids to have a beautiful future. So teach us.
Yeah. So when we first started, chatting through email, you sort of said, what does this look like? And I said, there's probably 2 waves that could come from an AI scenario, an AI bad case scenario. So let's talk about the first one is sort of things that are non-extinction. And the second bucket is extinction, right? So we want to keep them separate. We'd prefer not to get to the second bucket and just stay in that first bucket. That would be great. But basically the first bucket, and I watched the show you all did, the first show you did. I just watched it this morning here before, and I thought it was excellent. You did a great job of setting up your audience for this conversation and to help them understand sort of what's to come and what they can do about it. So the first wave is like disruption. I think that probably the most likely thing would be a loss of power or a loss of the internet itself for days, weeks, or months. And I think that is a scenario in which your audience will be very well prepared for, and may do very well because of the preparation you've taken. And in 5-10 years ago, when people were thinking about prepping, they weren't thinking about this, but all that prep that has been done to get you to this point, I think could prove to be very useful in that scenario.
There are maybe some little twists from what we have typically done. The focus that we've had. Are there any little twists that are different that we should make sure that we are prepared for because of the AI aspect?
Yeah, I mean, to me, one of the most likely scenarios is the loss of the internet itself. And so I think being prepared for an internetless world, a suddenly internetless world, is a prudent step for people to take. So, whether that means printing out your account numbers, your basics of your online life that if you didn't have it, you would need to take with you. I think that's a pretty smart step. It's like this. Like, imagine this. So they say we're going to have these AI agents, and they're going to be able to go and do multiple steps. And you guys could say in 6 months or a year or 2 years, whenever it is, when these AI agents are out there, hey, go build me a business, right? Find me a good business and build it. And it would say, it would do the research, it would find a niche, it would build a website, maybe it orders products, it puts out ads. It's literally doing all this stuff, right? It's like created a business. So now imagine, Jonathan, if you say, okay, create me 1 million businesses. And it goes and it does that. And then I say, oh, Jonathan's 1 million businesses are doing pretty well. I want to go create 1 billion businesses. And now everybody goes and does that, right? That is what is called the dead internet theory, where literally we just jam so much stuff into the internet that it just breaks, and potentially permanently. If your audience Googles that, it's called the dead internet theory. And it's, so I think that is a real possibility. Yeah. And I don't know how you all feel. I love the internet. I get a lot out of it, but I could almost see an internetless world being preferable to some future worlds.
It is kind of interesting that way, right? Because we are so dependent on the internet. Like right now, our entire business, everything that we do as content creators, it's internet based. All of our banking is on the internet. I mean, so much of all of our day to day life is on the internet. And you don't recognize that until you say, okay, no internet for a week. And then all of a sudden you realize, wait, I can't do my life. I
Yeah,
am very much into growing our own food and trying to live, produce as much as we can, close our
I
own
love that.
loop. And it's a beautiful life, but you know what? It's not realistic for the majority of people. The majority of people live in places where it is not a possibility. It's not a possibility to move and to do that. So let's take one of our viewers who happens to live in either a condo or an apartment in the city, and suddenly
Yeah,
we're throwing this threat at them. They, because of their limitations, they can't really grow much of their own food. They
yeah.
can't store much food. They don't have control over their power. What do you recommend for somebody like that?
So funny you should mention someone like that, because they're probably like me. I'm joining you live right now from the city of Baltimore, which is not a place where I think you'd want to spend your doomsday. Uh, so I had done very little to any prepping of this type at all until probably about a year ago. And then I became probably what you would consider the most novice prep person in the world. But I've got, about 6 months of that forever food kind of stuff in boxes. I became a gun owner for the first time in my life and bought a shotgun. I have paper maps and binoculars of everywhere, because I have read stuff that's like, imagine the only intelligence you get is what you can see. And if you can see better and know better with your eyes than everybody else, you're at an advantage. So those are, and I've kind of like just a bag filled with some stuff that, chargers and radios and water purifiers and just kind of like the basic stuff you have. But here's the real problem, I think, for the city people. And this is where I consider myself, it's like, you don't want to be on the highway. You don't want to be stuck on the roads, so my mindset is, I think in these scenarios we're talking about, a loss of power, a loss of internet, we might have some sort of warning before it got really bad in the cities. So power goes out one day, it might be day 3 or day 5 before, people start roaming the streets because they don't have food, they don't have water, and they're looking for it, and so you don't even feel bad for people in this scenario. It's I don't think poorly of people in this scenario, right? That if like you need to feed your family and it's a disaster scenario and you're walking the streets for food, like that, if I was in that situation, I would have to feed my family. I'd probably do the same thing. So being in the city, I probably will stay in my place and wait and try to wait it out. I think the other move is get out quick, right? So if you're in the city and power goes out for a day, get to the country. That, I think that is really advisable. Otherwise, commit to being here, but you don't want to be caught in sort of, no man's land, like
Right.
in a string of cars on the highway.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dangerous. Yeah. So my first idea is get out quick if you can, and if you can't, shelter in place.
And where are you going in the country? Because that's a whole nother, I mean, you have to have a destination. And I think, for us personally, we live more out in the country, but we are so much of our family's backup plan that we don't have the ability to help others who might be
Yeah.
passing through, right? We just
Yep.
can't.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, honestly, like a scenario where we can prep for and we can escape or not, or shelter in place, all of this is sort of like secondary on my list of hierarchy of concerns. I think all these are scenarios where people will survive and there will people being successful. And I think your viewers will probably be high among them because I'm sure they've been prepping for some time. So that'll be super useful.
One of the things that I think is really important is community and working together, because I know even though we live out in the country, we really couldn't survive on our own. But with our different neighbors that are able to do things and the relationships that we've built, we would survive just fine. And part of that includes defending our community, right? You can't. And when I say community, I'm not talking about like our city. I'm talking about the people that we have chosen to work with, right? You can't defend everything alone, right? You can't produce everything alone. You've got to have that community. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay, back to AI. So we're thinking the power grid is another thing. You've got to be able to live without power to be prepared to do
Yeah.
that.
I think being prepared for a simpler life is the way to be. That is the preparation, both mentally and physically, to turn back the clock way back.
And I love the simpler life. One of my boys once told me, you need to be prepared to live without. And I thought, huh? But it makes sense. We have certain expectations with life, but that doesn't mean we need them to live. We need the basics. We need food. We need water. We need
Yeah.
companionship, right? I mean, there's certain things that are just basics that we have to have, but there's a lot that we don't. And so we do need to be prepared to live without. What are some of the other ones we talked about? No internet, no power. Some of the problems with bad actors doing things like chemical, biological, pandemic
Yeah.
kind of scenarios. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are slightly terrifyingly. Those are very real near-term possibilities. The way the AI models are advancing is they are giving anyone, you, me, a high school kid, the ability to make a biological or chemical weapon in our garage. In some of the safety testing that's happening right now, the current models are literally in the danger zone of that, and they put them out anyway. So I think something that I have heard in the AI risk community as a sort of commonly held belief is it might just be the first thing might be a Columbine style kid at a high school who's really mad at whoever and goes home and is able with a 3D printer and ordering some stuff to basically manufacture a biological weapon and bring it to school.
And what a waste of a beautiful, brilliant kid.
Absolutely, absolutely. And why, we would never put the design to a nuclear weapon on the internet, but we've put the design to bio and chem weapons on the internet with this.
So, what other things do we need to be concerned about? And then we'll move on to how do we have faith and joy and look out for happiness, even though this crazy stuff is going on.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you about my biggest concern. My biggest concern is what we call loss of control. And it means basically that the humans lose control of the AIs. And that is not a good position for humanity to be in. So I, 2 years ago, started my own podcast. I was a TV reporter for 12 years. And so I was out of the being on camera game for a long time. And then 2 years ago, I was like, I read the article in Time Magazine and I thought, a purpose I can serve to my neighbors, my community, the world is to use my skills as a broadcaster to talk about AI risk to everyday people. Because by design for the last 20 years, the people who are making this thing that could cause doom, right, have kept it to themselves. They said, don't tell the public and don't tell the government. They'll come in and mess it up. Then 3 years ago, ChatGPT comes along and they realize, oh, wow, we actually need the public and we need the government because this thing moved way faster than we thought and we're not in control of it. So if your audience takes away three things about AI risk, there are these three things as far as loss of control that I think they need to know. So number one is that the makers of these systems openly admit, they signed a statement that openly admits that their product has the near-term potential to end all life on Earth, means kill us all, right? I saw in your last video, you had a 10 to 20% extinction rate, in the next 10, 20 years, whatever it is. Insane, completely unacceptable. Why would we do this? We're choosing to do this. The product that would do this does not exist today. Humans are making the choice to make it exist. We can encourage them not to make that choice, right? So number one thing is this thing could kill us all. Number two, they have no idea how to control it or even how it works. This system that can kill us all, unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. They do not know how to make it do what we want, how to make it have human values, and they do not understand what's going on inside it. It's a black box. They put in some data, they zap it with compute power, and out comes the answer. And they have no idea what happened in between. Imagine if we built cars and we had metal and a black box and we zapped it and out came the car and you said, oh, but they're crashing. Is it the brakes or is it the steering? They said, we don't know. It's a black box. We'll just make more of them and keep going. This is the insane world we're in, right? So they don't know how to control them. They don't understand what's going on inside. And number three, they spend all their time and money making them stronger, not safer. So my mission in life is to wake up the public, wake up everyday people to the fact that this is happening, and we have a short period of time where we can encourage our elected leaders to make it not happen.
What a great mission. Now, how do you do that without terrifying everyone? We've got these little children. I wanna make sure that they have the ability to think that there's gonna be a great future for them, right?
Totally. I am an optimist to my core. I love life. I love technology. And I fully believe that there is a path we can find where our children will have a phenomenal future. But that path does not involve letting these unelected leaders in Silicon Valley making choices for us that we have not consented to. No one has consented to allowing them to endanger our families. And yet here we are.
So how do we stop that?
So number one thing is reaching out to our elected leaders, right? I've literally had meetings in a Senate office where the senior Senate staff person in my state, I said to them, what will it take for my senator to be a leader on AI risk? And she says to me, well, we're just not hearing from our constituents about that. So we need to make the phones ring. And if I may make a little pitch right now, my friends at the Center for AI Safety have made a website. It's at safe.ai/act. It is an incredibly easy to use, slick web tool that anyone in any state can use, and you can email or call the president, senator, House of Reps, governor, state senator, state rep. In one click, you can hit all seven. It will custom compose an LLM email that lets them know you care about these issues or connect you through the switchboard to the office. Really important that people do this, because how does any change happen in our country, right? You got to tap your congressman on the shoulder and be like, I care about this. And if the shoulder taps enough, things change. And if it doesn't, they don't.
Awesome. We will leave a link for that, you guys, in the description of this video.
Beautiful.
So make sure that you go and you look for that.
And I think it's sad because our elected leaders do have a responsibility to listen to us, but they also have a responsibility to lead and say, if there's a problem out there, they need to step up and address the problem, not wait for us, because most of our audience and most of the people I know don't have any clue of these threats. I mean, theoretically, they've said, yeah, there's probably some threats out there, but they don't understand the magnitude or the timing.
Yeah.
Most people are not even tuned into this at all, except for the positive aspects of it, which there are.
There are very positive.
There's some positive aspects.
There's so many positive aspects. Absolutely. I think this thing will cure disease, will end hunger, will end poverty if we give it time to do that. If we find a way to, align it to our values so we can understand why it does what it does, then we will get all the good things. But we won't get the good things if we don't solve the hard problems first.
All right. So for our audience, the message, what we're encouraging them to act and do is the first thing. We're going to get on that website and we're going to reach out to our congressman and everybody that we can to say, hey, we need to fix this. The second thing we're going to do is we are going to make sure that we are prepared to live without power. And then the next one, prepared to live without the internet. which, we've practiced the power thing for so long. But I think sometimes really understanding the scope of living without the internet is a lot broader than what we might think. We have a lot of friends right now who have lost their jobs, and now they're trying to do a lot of these things without the income and don't know what they're going to do about the future because jobs are getting harder to find in a lot of the areas that our friends have been trained in and what they have prepared themselves for.
Yeah.
I think physical skills that you are able to like grow your own food, fix your own stuff, anything where you're working with your hands is a great place to spend some of your time and energy learning right now.
Yes. And community, building your community. Find ways to reach out, get to know your neighbors, work together, find some ways to work together. And that can include spreading this word.
Absolutely. My YouTube channel is called the AI Risk Network. It is literally just content I've put there for the general public to go and learn about these issues, just trying to connect with everybody. And I think the one other thing everybody can do is tell a friend, tell a neighbor. Like once you go through the learning process and people will watch this show and they'll say, oh, that can't be true. And then they'll go to the internet and they'll read maybe Eliezer's Yudkowsky's Time Magazine article. They'll learn the rest of the stuff. And you'll get to this place where you'll understand that there is no counter argument. None of this is controversial. Everyone agrees. There's not two sides to this. Like we're building these machines. They're designed to replace humans, to replace our jobs, and potentially to replace us entirely. It is human replacement AI that certain people are choosing to build for profit. And we, the rest of us, right? The 8 billion of us need to say to the couple thousand people that are building this thing, no, we don't want it. We're the adults in the room. We're the parents in the room. You're not doing this to our kids. You don't have our consent. We don't trust you. No way.
Thank you.
Good point.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, John, for being with us today. This has been wonderful and enlightening. What last words of advice do you have for our audience?
So you might think that thinking about all this stuff all the time, I would be in a bad mental place or something. I'm not at all. You can act and consider these ideas and stay in a great frame of mind. I feel like I'm more present. I'm more appreciative of the time I have, the world around me. I reach a time every evening where I'm sort of like, okay, today is over and we're going to get another chance tomorrow. And like, let's keep going. How insane would it be for us to be the last humans? No way. I will not, we cannot allow that to happen. Think of all the people that came before us, all their sacrifice. No way we are going to allow a couple thousand tech guys in Silicon Valley to end everything for everybody else. Can't allow it to happen. We have a couple years to make this change. We need to raise our voices right now.
And now for our audience, what is your biggest concern about the potential challenges that we face in our future because of AI? And what are you doing about them? Drop them in the comments. Let's have some discussion and let's further this cause. And thanks for being part of the solution.